Hopefully I'm live by now. Maybe not. I gotta go check now. I told you, it doesn't always go live. So I gotta go check manually. Love you, Twitch, but holy crap. Now Twitch, like, isn't even loading for me, so I'm not even sure if I'm live at all. Looks like I am. I'm sorry to my YouTube viewers. On the new channel. Okay, seriously? Okay, there we go. It looks like I am, in fact, live. So I'd just like to share this for everyone. Thank you to all 119 of you who made this possible. As you can see, we actually have our new channel set up for the Lore Runner and for all of those wonderful things that, like the stream uploads, which will be going live to that basically immediately. So, woo! Anybody feel like bookmarking, feel free. I'm going to go ahead and add that to the website super quick, now that that's finally set up. So, yay. Excitement. So, who here wants to talk about Illidan before we get into more of Pandare? Anybody? Anybody at all? No? Nobody? Okay. Well, we'll never talk about Illidan ever then. It's now or literally never. I mean, that seems fair, right? You know, just all or nothing kind of a perspective, you know. Okay, there we go. Well, you know, Meadfist has a good point. You guys aren't actually prepared. That's a good question, Preacher. I'm not sure I want to know the answer to that one. It's a little weird. Illidan? I don't know, Permeus. He's some guy who, like, everyone hates, apparently. I mean, just absolutely despises this guy. Loathes and hates him. There we go. No, I have not, Myron. I missed the fact that it came out. Oops. Okay, so now that we've got all that updated, let's talk about Illidan. So, when I say Illidan, I of course refer to Illidan the book. For those of you not aware, a book called Illidan came out relatively recently. It was pretty awesome. It contained a lot of what I expected, to be as blunt as I can. It contained a lot of smoothing out of the lore. In other words, rather than just kind of accepting BC as it is as canon, they tried to make a few things make more sense. For example, Kil'jaeden had actually been trying to go after Kael'thas since Frozen Throne. You remember the scene where Kil'jaeden shows up to scold Illidan? That's the first time he had contact with him, and was working on getting him together for that pretty much ever since. Whoops, nope. That was kind of his goal there. He also, so that was smoothed out a little bit. It also kind of smoothed out the timeline a wee bit of the overall, yes, of the presentation of the story. For example, we know that the portal, the Dark Portal, was opened roughly 2 months prior to Illidan's defeat and at the end of the Black Temple. We also know a few other things about specifics, like, again, to go into a little bit of details, excuse me. We know that High Lord Cruel and the Burning Legion in general had been working to open portals into Azeroth and Outland, specifically to try and defeat Illidan, because Illidan was seen as an actual threat to them for reasons I'll go into in a moment. So that the whole demonic invasion of Azeroth, that was literally just to provoke us into attacking Illidan, so that we would actually be fighting against Illidan full time. In fact, our entire campaign against Illidan was basically a mistake. Now, let's not make that sound like Illidan was a good guy, because that is very much not the truth. Quite the contrary, Illidan was doing some pretty questionable things at the time. A little bit too openly. However, and I'll talk about some of those in a moment. But a lot of the inconsistencies in Illidan being presented as this big, horribly, disgustingly evil person was actually deceptions on behalf of the Burning Legion, trying to convince us and everyone else basically to fight against him. Because the Burning Legion actually feared Illidan. I suppose I should probably explain why that is. Do I have viewers? Is there anyone on right now? Nobody's talking right now. That's fine. I just want to make sure I have people present while I deal with something here. I'll wait for a moment while I get some water. Ah, there we go. I also have no idea what my chat delay is right now. So this will be a good way to find that out. We'll just wait a moment. Waiting a moment. Okay, Fallout Bear is there. So that's our chat delay. Pretty bad chat delay today. Illidan, lorerunner.com green. It hasn't been updated with it yet because I don't have it done yet, and I'm not committing to a schedule when I don't have the stuff for the schedule. But lorerunner.com is where the schedule will be. Hey, Shayandra. Ooh, someone's fighting anger right now. So, Illidan, okay. Maiev wanted to go after Illidan, was turned down by everyone. A lot of people said, no, we're not participating in your feud against Illidan. And, so they were like, okay, fine. She went with her own private army and basically got massacred. Akama ended up betraying her, had to betray her. Then Akama got betrayed by Illidan. All of this was done to kill all of them and get together a huge amount of souls, both from the dead of the army and from the dead in Auchindoun, okay? All these souls were used to power this very, very powerful portal. You might be like, well, what do you mean? Why would they need a very, very powerful portal? The portal led to Nethrazara. I know what you're thinking. Why is that significant? What the heck is Nethrazara? Nethrazara is the homeworld of the Nethrazim. Illidan opened a portal to the homeworld of the Nethrazim and staged an operation there where he spent considerable time and effort trying to harass them, defeat them, took a powerful demonic artifact called the Compass of Argus, which allowed someone to actually find Argus. For those of you who don't know, Argus is the homeworld of the Eridar and the Legion capital world. Excuse me. So they took this compass, defeated several Nethrazim. Keep in mind, Nethrazara is in the Twisting Nether, which means any Nethrazim defeated there are permanently killed, okay? Illidan spent so much time and effort on Nethrazara that a huge amount of Legion forces pulled back and started assaulting his forces there, right? Then, this was all part of the plan, Illidan had his forces withdraw with the compass, so they would be able to find Argus in the future, and basically detonated the portal in a very similar fashion to how the portal on Outland detonated on Draenor, except worse. It absolutely annihilated Nethrazara. Let me say that again in case you missed it. Illidan's plan, using the portal as basically a huge bomb, destroyed the entire planet, and because this is in the Twisting Nether, permanently killed all of the demons that were there, including a huge volume of Nethrazim. This is mentioned as being the first biggest loss the Legion has ever had. Ever. Because even when they lost against Azeroth, they just got back up again. I mean, they did lose, absolutely. But none of the demons we defeated back in back in the War of the Ancients and back during Warcraft 3 stayed defeated. These ones are gone. So that was not exactly insignificant. I like it, Chandra. Especially N'Zoth. So that wasn't exactly an insignificant victory, as you might imagine. Shortly after this, Illidan decided to basically astrally project himself to Argus to try and scout out. Yeah, exactly, Warwager. Illidan was astrally projecting through the temples and the palaces of Argus itself, and was very, very nearly caught by Kil'jaeden. This is important to note, because if he had been caught by Kil'jaeden, he would have been screwed, and that would have been the end of Illidan. He was saved by, and I'm just going to quote here, a mysterious voice. I'll get more into that in a minute. It's not quite that, Azure. It's more like he sent an elite fighting force that was holding the line specifically to antagonize the Legion into sending more and more reinforcements. If they had continued to stay there, they would eventually have been overrun, of course. He had no ability to take or hold territory at all. His entire plan was draw in as many forces as possible and then drop a bomb on their face. This was, however, forces of elves, elves, Naga, and, of course, his own demons. So yeah, very much a hit and run down. A very, very smart tactic, especially when fighting something like the Legion. Is it you? No. Is it down below? I never remember where the Alliance one is. Does anyone know where the Alliance flight trainer is? Because I don't remember. Anyways, the mysterious voice saved him from Kil'jaeden. Now, about a month or so prior to Illidan's defeat in the Black Temple is when Magtheridon and Vosh were defeated. And the overall forces of us... Oh, here he is. God, I didn't even see him. The overall forces of us were continuing to home in on him, basically. There we go. There's a lot of fleshing out of little details, like how Illidan had been training demon hunters specifically to try and prep for an invasion on Argus. Illidan's plan was to do the exact same thing that Warwager just mentioned. Open a portal to Argus, blah, blah, blah. Illidan was trying to open a portal to Argus pretty much all the time we were going through Shadowmoon Valley, and the entire time we were assaulting the Black Temple. Now this is funny, because to make this clear, the Illidari Council and some of the forces of the Illidari were actively trying to conquer/rule Outland, right? I kind of mentioned that before. Illidan was not trying to, didn't care at all. He was literally in the backdrop. You remember how I mentioned when we were going through BC, how I always felt that Illidan was just kind of segregating himself, like he was over on his pedestal while they were actually running the show? Well, that was actually true, apparently. It's just Illidan wasn't just sitting over there being stupid, like was presented in BC. He was over there trying to make this portal to Argus happen, to do the same thing to Argus directly. Now, he failed because we kind of started interrupting him. We invaded Black Temple. Maiev came straight after him, blah, 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 blah. One of Illidan's last acts was to send forth the last of his demon hunters, including the player character demon hunter, through this portal as basically a last-ditch effort right before... well, I shouldn't say right. Minutes before Illidan himself was defeated and killed. I think that would be irony, Myron. Yeah, so we kind of screwed that up a wee bit there. Hey, God Mode. It is worth noting that there was a lot of things... I mean, okay, so I mentioned that the Legion was directly manipulating us into thinking Illidan was our enemy. Kael'thas was a part of that as well. In fact, you remember that army that Kael'thas sent that ended up becoming the Scryers? That was originally sent to try and continue to provoke the forces of the Naru and us, the forces of Azeroth, into thinking Illidan was assaulting what was effectively an innocent thing, and it wasn't. That was Legion-inspired. The Gruul was actually allied with Illidan and was working basically together with him in order to ensure some decency of tranquility and whatnot. Magtherin, of course, making the Fell Orcs in order to forge an army that could actually withstand the Legion large enough in order to do things like the thing on Nethrazara. There were Fell Orcs there as well. Basically, a lot of fleshing out of little details that made BC make more sense is the majority of what the book was about. Yes, even in the book, Illidan is not described as a good guy, which I think is good, because Illidan is not a good guy. He is a... Well, I'm saying that wrong. He is definitely on the side of good, but yeah, he was never a nice person. He was never a polite, diplomatic, kind person. But he was always, in my personal opinion, a hero. He was always someone who has tried to do the right thing. He's just tried to do it in his own way. He's a very good definition of an anti-hero. That being said, there's one last thing in the book that has been extremely controversial. And I've been building up to this. And some people think it's interpretive, some people think it's terrible. I have heard an obscene amount of complaining about this last point. So let me just go and get my opinion out now before I tell you what it is. I love it. And not only is it funny that I was kind of right, we'll see what I mean in a moment, but I love the direction they're going with it in, and I love the fact that they could go multiple directions with it in, all of which I enjoy. And I think it's a good move for them based on things we're going to be seeing in the future. You ready for this, guys? Because this is the big one. I actually have my notes up about it right here, if I could find them. Here we go. Hang on, I should check my notes to make sure. I actually took some notes here to make sure I didn't skip over anything. I talked about the Dark Portal. I talked about the Kill Jaden thing. They also describe a little bit about what it means to become a demon hunter. You devour the heart of a demon, and then you are partially transformed into a fell creature. And then you can see the Burning Legion in a more or less literal way, and you tend to gouge out your own eyes to make sure you don't see that anymore. They have a 1 in 5 survival rate, to give you an idea of that. I think that's the only other little thing I wanted to mention. Apparently it's Nethrazara, not Nethrazara. Excuse me, Nethrazara is the name of the Nethrazim homeworld that was destroyed. God. Okay, so that's... Yeah, okay, so let's go ahead and get to the really controversial thing. Give me a moment. So, Illidan encounters an individual. This individual is the mysterious voice that saved him while he was interacting with Kill Jaden earlier, okay? This mysterious individual is referred to as an Elder Naru. An Elder Naru is mentioned as being more powerful than any of the other Naru combined. It is mentioned that it brings up the Void, and the Void Lords mentions how they are the real enemy, not the Legion. We kind of already knew this from Chronicles, but that is specifically called out here and mentioned to Illidan in character. Illidan gets marked by the Naru, and Illidan experiences a vision, which I'm going to read for you. If you'll give me just a moment. This is reading straight from the book here. Your experience... This is... So, I can't do... I'll call the... I'll do the Naru in a weird voice. Your experiences have forged you into that. A weapon aimed at the heart of a great demon. Illidan says, I would like to think I am somewhat more sentient than my warglaves. The Naru says, well, that is what makes you more dangerous. So the universe has anointed me to slay Kill Jaden. Illidan's tone was sardonic, but hope flickered inside him. Perhaps if what this Naru said was true, there was some chance of victory after all. The swirl of lights indicated a negative. No, your enemy is far greater than Kill Jaden. Greater even than Sargeras and his Burning Legion. Oh, wonderful, Illidan said, as if they were not strong enough. The suspicion that this was all a subtle mocking trap set by Kill Jaden sidled once more into his mind. He fought down bitterness. It seemed as all his sacrifices had gone for naught. If this was a trap, his struggle was ended. If it was not, things were even worse than he'd thought. The Void is a more potent foe by far than the Burning Legion. It is the ultimate opponent of the light. It will take all the peoples of Azeroth and Outland united to oppose it. The Naru stopped pulsing. You do not believe me. You lose faith and hope. Then know this. Before Illidan could defend himself in any way, a bolt of pure light blasted from the Naru. It struck his empty eye sockets and filled them with a golden glow. Illidan braced himself for a blast of agony that did not come. In the past, such magic had always racked him with pain. It would normally have done the same to any user of fell magic. His vision shimmered and faded, and he found himself looking down upon a terrible battlefield. Amidst mountains of corpses, a winged figure battled at the head of the Legion of the Light. A golden glow surrounded his warglaves. He cleft demons asunder with mighty blows. The soldiers surrounding him gazed up with awe and wonder at their leader. It took Illidan a moment to realize that this being's features were his own, transformed, his eyes glowing fiercely. The avatar of the light looked calm, strong, and at peace. His face was filled with confidence, shorn of all suffering. As Illidan watched, the winged figure rose above the battle, defying gigantic entities of darkness, creations of the evil void. A halo played around his head, his body glowing brighter than the sun, and from his outstretched arms, rays of light emerged to strike his foes. There was a sense of brightness about this, as if he looked upon a vision of unborn future. For a moment, he could believe in it, but then his doubts returned. This could not be true. It was not a path he had ever set out on. It was not who he was. He was a fighter, a killer, as driven by the darkness as his own desires, and as driven by the darkness and his own desires as he was by any urge to do the right thing. You will defy death, the Naru's voice said as the vision faded. I have seen this. Whatever you were, whatever you are, a champion of the light is what you will be. There was utter certainty to the Naru's voice, and it communicated itself to Illidan. For a moment he felt the light embrace him, and his heart was at peace. He had been given a vision of redemption beyond any he had hoped for. Peace filled him as he communed silently with the Naru. The moment lasted only a heartbeat, but when it ended, Illidan felt as if he might have been a lifetime. You will be a hero, said the Naru. Oh, but there will be a price. There always is. And then the book continues, and then Illidan dies. So, I already gave my opinion on that. As you might imagine, the internet is afire with people talking about how that is the worst thing ever. Seriously, I have seen people complain about WoW for 10 years. I have never seen people complain about anything more than this. While there are negative things to be said about it, absolutely, my first reaction was something along the lines of, Hell yeah! So, as you might imagine, I like the direction that story is going in. Sorry, guys. Yes, Myron. Now, I actually had another little thing here I wanted to share. There it is. Here it is. Just give me 1 second to find the right page. So, now, one person... So, this is a good example. Yeah, I know, right, Fallout Bear? This is a good example of one of the legitimate complaints I've heard about this. I'm just going to read this word for word. He is written as a tragic hero. Getting a redemption arc would kill everything good he had as a character. Dying in Black Temple, just as he was about to go to Argus, possibly killing Kil'jaeden, all because of Akama's mistrust and a dash of Maiev. It is a sad, ironic ending to an even sadder story of unrequited love, jealousy, and hypocrisy. Sometimes the good guys don't win, and very rarely do good guys get punished for their good deeds. A good tragic hero comes along once in a blue moon, and Illidan was the best ever written. This guy needs to seriously get screwed over by Legion. And then he continues to talk about how he basically needs to not be redeemed. So we're going to scroll down a bit here. There's one other interpretation of this that I actually like. That interpretation is the idea that maybe this vision that Illidan was given was not literal. That Illidan would be a champion of the light, but not literally. He would not be, a paladin, to use such terms. He would not be someone wielding the light personally. He would just be a champion of the army of light, as I myself have described it many times in the past. By the way, there's a few times in the book that they refer to this army of light in the future, and I'd just like to say, totally freaking called it. Um, So, of course, so like I said, there's several ways to interpret this, and we don't know the direction they're going with it. It could be he's, some big avatar of the light, which I admittedly would not like that idea. That's also not how I interpret it, but shrug, obviously. There's the interpretation I literally just said, where he is a champion of the light, along the lines of, say, I don't know, Tyrion, Fordring, for example, and is this awesome person who is trying to fight in his own particular method and on behalf of the light. There's the interpretation that he is going to be redeemed in the Final Fantasy Tactics manner, which would take a while to explain, but to suffice, it means he will be a good guy that no one will really recognize as a good guy, an unsung hero, if you will. And I've seen a few other interpretations. After Prometheus, for reference. So, don't know. I actually don't know. I like the overall direction. I like them turning Illidan back into a force for good, if not a good guy. Because let's make this clear. The Illidan book makes it very clear he's not a good guy. I already mentioned that. And so making him into someone who is going to do good while still being a basically a bad person, in other words, the definition of an anti-hero, yeah, I'm totally down with that. It is way better than the Illidan we had in BC. It is something I've been wanting for Illidan for some time. The person who I have defended so many times because despite... It's one of those... There's a difference between someone who is not good and someone who is evil. And I have never felt that Illidan is evil. I have felt that he is not good. It's my interpretation. And again, the book really helps to emphasize that. All those people, all those souls he sacrificed and all the people he slaughtered, he didn't do that because mwahaha. He didn't do that because he wanted to hurt people or because he was trying to be evil or whatever. There was no evil intent there. He did it because he had to in order to get that portal opened to Nethrazara, to the Nethrazim homeworld. It was the only way to make that happen. And Illidan has always been an extremely pragmatic individual who is willing to do terrible things in order to accomplish a good. He has always been, to be blunt, more of a Cisco than a Picard. And I like a Cisco-type character, I wouldn't mind if he does a real redemption arc. We'll see. I don't know. Blizzard's redemption arcs are weird. I liked what they did with Arthas a lot, and I liked what they did with Kerrigan a lot, but it is arguable that neither of those were actually redemption arcs, because Kerrigan didn't actually do anything wrong. The Queen of Blades did. We've talked about that. And Arthas, while he definitely did do wrong, was nevertheless a constant opponent of the thing that was really doing most of the bad, which was the Second Lich King. So then we will have to disagree, Raskor, on that point. For me, evil is all about intent. That's how I've always defined evil and good. Intent, not results, not actions. If you go to help someone and accidentally trip and stab someone to death, that doesn't make you evil, does it? No, of course not. You're going to help someone. But that is my interpretation of it, and of course is no more accurate or valid than yours, since the very concept of good and evil is completely dependent on the individual's perspective, because there is no definition of good or evil, nor indeed should there be. That being said, yeah, Illidan did some dark stuff in this book. It's a good book. I highly recommend it to anybody who wants to pick it up. I've already given away the big spoiler stuff. And like I said, it really, really fleshes out a lot of BC. There's one other thing I wanted to read here. If you give me a moment here. Where is it? Sorry, give me a second. That's right, one last thing. So I mentioned how Illidan had managed to, was opening that portal to Argus. Apparently he actually successfully, did actually open a portal and push through Vandal, who's basically the protagonist of the book, and who we see most of the book's perspective from. Yeah, go ahead, Kay. Link it to Deutsch, see if it's working. Um, and so I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing Vandal in the future as well. He's a Demon Hunter protagonist. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm reading my own notes wrong. I was gonna say that didn't sound right. The Demon Hunter player characters go through the portal. Vandal's the one who's left behind. So again, I still think he's going to play some role in the story in the future. I'm not sure. What's up with that? I'll send it to Bragwin then because hers are working. Bragwin, if you can afford it, I say pick it up. Illidan is, I'd say, probably my second favorite WoW book I've read so far, after the Lich King one. I guess that's all I've got. I have to admit, I'm not. They could mess this up really easily. Let's just be honest about it. It would be very easy for Blizzard's writers to mess up the Illidan redemption, Hero of Light, whatever story. They could do that. As Raskor pointed out, they could turn him into some kind of chosen one thing, and I'm pretty sick of the chosen one thing too. They could make it so that they could make it so that for some reason he actually is turned into some kind of angel creature. There's a lot of things they could do with this that would, in my opinion, really mess it up, and I'm not sure that I would like that. I am hopeful. Like I said, my initial reaction was just awesome. That was my gut reaction. And when I started to think about it, I realized there were so many ways they could take this in a good direction. One of the things I liked, and I didn't mention it directly, is that the Naru mentions how Illidan has basically always been a hero. Now, the definition of that by the Naru's statement is that even though Illidan is a bad person, he has always tried to do good. He is a bad person who has always tried to fight on the side of right. For his own purposes, for his own reasons, but he has always accomplished things on the side of right, and therefore he is defined by the Naru as a hero. Now, I would like that, Raskor. In fact, that's what I am hoping for, that he is one of the champions who's fighting the demons one-to-one, you know, who's wielding the power one-to-one. And I think that'd be cool. But, moving on. So, scroll up. Scroll up. My own comments on this when I was talking about my story ideas for where I would go. That was one of the things I mentioned. Have Illidan come back as the frontline general of the Army of Light. I was even calling it back then. Now, granted, that was a Babylon 5 reference, but still. You know, have him be the frontline general who's in charge of... not in charge of, who's fighting the demons one-to-one, you know, who's wielding the power one-to-one. And I think that'd be cool. But, moving on. So, scroll up. Scroll up. Well, Dr. Sid is a little more debatable, since we can only guess at his real motivations. I actually mentioned this when we were going through the playthrough of the international playthrough of FF12, because Dr. Sid might have just been interested in the power. He might have been doing it for science's sake. He might have been trying to build a better world for his son. He might have been trying to build a better world for the people around him. He might have genuinely believed in the cause of, you know, history back in the hands of man, etc., etc. We don't actually 100% know. We can only interpret based on the character. I think it's one of the reasons why Dr. Sid was actually a really well-designed character, because we don't 100% know, and a lot of him is debatable based on interpretation. So, there's your army of light, the Scourge. Excuse me. I like how Bragwin and I both really want the same thing with regards to Arthas, the real Arthas. Yeah, I wouldn't mind Arthas being given the peace of death. I really wouldn't. I just don't want him to be suffering in the worst place imaginable for forever. Just, oh. Anyways, so, yeah. Poor Arthas. The Avengers Warcraft Edition. So we've got Captain Anduin, Iron Illidan, Jaina Widow, Nathanios? Really? No. Let's go with Sylvanas Hawkeye. There we go. Yeah, right. I'm pretty sure we're going to see some interesting things with Sylvanas and Legion. Also, good job on the image. Okay. So, I heard there's this thing called World of Warcraft. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's this game I'm playing technically right now. Check it out, by the way. I can fly! I'm free of the confines of the earth. Yes! Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. It's okay. I'm dead. Who would be the Hulk? Oh, that's a good question. Arthas is in the worst possible hell. He is in the void, yeah. It is basically a place where you suffer forever, and the suffering never gets better, and it's horrifying, and it's dark, and it's cold, and it's actually described as just the worst hell imaginable. And he is suffering there at the moment forever. Where Sylvanas has actually been there as well. And that informs most of her character development since Wrath. She was so terrified, so horribly affected by being there, that she's willing to do anything to never go back. Legion! Oh, excuse me. Hey, look, I've still got my bowels and brains. Oh, Kel'Thuzad would be so awesome! He's still there! He's still alive, even in lore! That's not even speculation, it's just a matter of if they're going to use him, and how, and what. No, Thrall does not need to be a part of this. Thrall's... Okay, I like Thrall. I do. I know that's a very unpopular opinion. But I like Thrall as a character. I like a lot of what he's done. I like a lot of his presentation. But I think he needs to go to the back of the screen. You know what I mean? I think it needs to be at the point where he stops being a main character. He has been a main character for too long, damn it. He needs to go back to being a secondary or tertiary backup support character. Yeah, exactly. Thrall needs to retire. Okay? Legion spoiler Inc. in 3, 2, 1... There's an exceptionally high chance that Thrall is finally retiring in Legion, based on things that we already know from the Shaman story quest. Namely, the fact that Thrall basically can't use the elements anymore, for reasons I'm not going to go into right now. And that's why we're going to be wielding the Doomhammer instead of him. So I'm really hopeful that Thrall is finally going into retirement and finally taking a step back. And you know what? I gotta be completely blunt. Thrall kind of deserves a happy ending at this point. If you really think about his life and all the garbage he's been through in his life, he really does deserve to get back there, get with Agra, raise his family, and just stay the hell out of all this mess. You've earned it, buddy. Go. Just go. Okay? But this is Warcraft. How many characters have lived happily ever after in Warcraft? Or retired in Warcraft. So, yeah, I was going to say, it is way more likely that Thrall is going to die. And that will be his retirement.